In this video, we're going to do an in-place upgrade of Windows Server 2016 to Server 2019. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the 2016 server has been completely updated. So you can go to your Windows Server, local server, check for Windows updates. Any updates that are found, run the updates, download the updates, install them, let the machine restart, come back in here and run this again. Each time the computer restarts, come back to this section and check for updates again. Complete this process until you see your device is up to date. The second thing you need to do is make sure you have your ISO file downloaded and installed or downloaded to your local drive on your server. I've created a local folder called ISO, and I've copied over the ISO file for Windows Server 2019 into here. You can either right click on this and click on mount, or double click it and it'll mount it for you. Click on setup, and then we're going to go through a normal process of installing Windows Server. I want to go ahead and click on download updates, drivers, and optional features. Now you have several options. In this version we have, in this ISO, we have Server 2019 Standard, 2019 Standard with Desktop Experience, Data Center, and Data Center with Desktop Experience. Let's go over a few of the differences between Standard and Desktop Experience. I have a little Word document here, WordPad. So Standard is basically the server core, and it's basically a strapped down version of the Windows. It does not have a GUI. The server core is meant to only be managed remotely, so you have to go out and download and install Windows Admin Center to manage it remotely, or you can manage it via command line and PowerShell. If you're very familiar with PowerShell, this will not be a problem for you, but for those who are not very familiar with command line and PowerShell, it's very tedious and there could be a learning curve there. Now there are some advantages to server core. So basically it's a smaller footprint, so there's lower consumption of your CPU, RAM, and disk space. This would primarily benefit you if you're running a virtual machine and allocate resources to it. It takes lower consumption of those resources if it's virtual. So it's less vulnerable and more resistant to cyber attacks. Some of the roles and functions that are normally in Windows Server are not supported, and we'll get to that in a little bit. There's less features and roles installed, but you can add some of them, but not all of them. There's less updates and patches, so there's less restarts. Here's some compatibility issues. It lacks compatibility with any applications that require a GUI. Some of those, this is not a complete list, but some of those are Server, Virtual Machine Manager, System Center Data Manager, SharePoint Server, and Project Server. So in conclusion, the server gives more resources, but it takes harder work and there may be a learning curve there when it comes to managing it. In addition to that, some of the applications are not supported. Now with Desktop Experience, pretty basic. It's a classic, well-known GUI from Windows Server. It's similar to Windows 10. The Desktop Experience contains the GUI and rendering the machine user-friendly and easier to manage both remotely and locally. On the other hand of this, it's a heavier machine. There's a lot more installed. There's a lot more features running, so it consumes more resources and it operates a little slower. It also makes it more vulnerable to the cyber attacks because there's a broader surface. It provides more and also requires more patches and restarts. In all honesty, if you have a very fast machine, if you have virtual machine running and you provided enough resources, RAM and CPU resources, with Desktop Experience installed, I've never had an issue with slowness or any issues with lagginess or anything like that with enough resources installed to it. If you have an older physical machine that's kind of outdated and you want to try to get as much juice out of it as possible, you might want to consider Core. But just know you're going to have a lot more trouble and a bigger learning curve with managing it. So we're going to go back and we're going to go ahead and install the 2019 standard desktop experience because I want the GUI. Accept your license terms. Here we're doing an in-place upgrade, so we want to keep the personal files and apps that we already have on the existing 2016 server. If you don't care about the existing apps and files, you can go ahead and choose the other option, which will basically format the drive and install a new completely fresh version of the 2019. So it's ready to install, click install. Once the installation has completed, the system's going to reboot. It does take a while. This installation took approximately 30 minutes for the update to complete. Right here is giving you the option to download the Windows Admin Center. Click on this if you'd like to download the Windows Admin Center to administer and manage your Windows servers. And as you can see, our new operating system is Server 2019 Standard. You are going to need to activate it with your new Windows Server 2019 key. It really is that simple.